we haven't really spoke one-on-one on kind of more of a deep dive of your philosophy on them. So I'd love to just hear why Palantir and why you're excited about their future and have invested so much into that company out of your personal holdings.
Sure. So let me tell you right off the bat that I'm not very tech savvy at all. So when a new tech company comes on, I'm a little scared, honestly. If I don't understand it, if I don't understand what they're doing, I'd rather not, because I don't know then what drives them, right? So if you don't understand the business, you wouldn't know how it's going to grow or what the prospects are.
So for
So
our
something,
viewers, just to say there for our viewers, we would call that your area of expertise. You're self-aware
yes.
and know where your areas of expertise are, and maybe have a lean towards that because that's giving you an edge as an investor.
Absolutely. And that's the Peter Lynch philosophy, isn't it? So that's great. But I mean, if you follow just that philosophy, you're going to miss out on a lot
Yes.
of great companies,
You have to be
right?
open-minded.
Exactly. So when Palantir first listed, I was like, what is this company everybody's talking about, you know? And then, oh, they have government contracts. Now, where I live, having government contracts is amazing. It means you've got solid business and it, you know, no default. The government doesn't default, right? So I was like, oh, okay, let's look at this company that has government contracts. It should be good, solid business. I understood nothing. um, I read it. I was like, what do they do? Seriously? Okay, forget it. And at that time, there were just so many other companies to read about and
Sure.
easier to understand for
Okay.
me. So I put it aside for a while, honestly. And then I listened to a lot of the earnings calls, even if they're not in my portfolio. It's just something that I've gotten into the habit of doing. So the earnings call came on for Palantir, and you know, I started listening, and I started to realize, oh, okay, so this is something they do, and okay, I mean, oh, it's actually a very simple proposition if you think about it.
Mhm.
They're taking huge amounts of nonsense data and making it useful for people, right? So, wow, okay, this isn't so difficult after all. So yeah, and then I started reading more and more about it, putting in a little bit of money. So sometimes with companies which are a little iffy, I will wait. But most of the time, even when I've read a little bit about it, I'll take a little bit of a starter position because it's fun to also watch the stock, right? Because that if it's in your portfolio, you know you're watching it closely.
That's right.
So yeah, so I took a little bit of a starter position, and then as we went along, I added and added and added. So all of this, it has been built over the course of 1 year or more, rather, and um, it's helpful that the share price hasn't gone anywhere. So I've been able to keep my cost base low. Um, but look, I think just the people, so Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, these people are very, very smart people. So there you have the people. You have the process. They know what they're doing. They're coming up with fantastic products, if you'd like, or offerings. So I think this company, it does something very basic if you look at it from a broad level.
Mhm.
On a granular level, I'm sure there are 100 people who are much smarter than me that can tell you what exactly they do and how their software exactly works. But for me, the bigger thesis is they are providing serious value, not just to consumer corporates, but also to the government. And that, yet again, is still very important to me. Their business is long-term contracts. It's not, you know, daily sales, which is absolutely phenomenal because you know where your money is coming from. We love in the banking world, we love long-term contracts. We just absolutely love it because you know what your money is going to be for the next 3 years, right? So if nothing else, we know we're earning this much, and they can just earn a whole lot more on top of that. But we know. So I think when people say that there's a lot of unknowns in Palantir, I think it's just the opposite. I think there are a lot of knowns in Palantir. I love the fact that they also manage their balance sheet very well. So everybody's very keyed into their offerings and their people, and but their balance sheet management is phenomenal. The first chance they got, they paid off all their debt.
Yep.
Um, I like that. I like to see people take advantage of situations like that because people like to look at net debt, which is like you take out cash from debt, but if you're not using that cash to pay your debt, I think it's stupid. I mean, then net debt makes no sense because somebody can always take that cash and use it for something else. But in
Mhm.
this instance, they put their money where their mouth is and they paid off their debt, which is like absolutely phenomenal. So I think they've got a great team. um, I think they're doing great things. They're partnering with superb companies. I think Sachin was just telling us that, showing us that they partnered with Deere and they've partnered with a whole lot of
Yeah.
other very old
They
companies,
actually
right?
just signed a deal with Hyundai, and to deal with them. And then they did $1 billion deal with Merck to figure out how they could do the
Yes,
supply chain with semiconductors. One
yes,
of the things that I like, and you hit on it, was the value to the customer, right? Because ultimately, you have to keep your customer, you have to grow your customer. And when
yes,
you're focused on the customer and their success, that will repay you tenfold. History has shown us with companies like that. They are not going after easy problems. They're looking for the hardest problems to solve, and even problems that aren't problems that we don't know about, and going after it ahead of time, right?
absolutely.
So you look at some of their offerings, they're starting to modularize Foundry. They're going after net carbon zero emissions and having a actual focused module of Foundry that helps companies lower their carbon footprint. You can't turn on an investment TV show and not hear about ESG and what their carbon footprint is, and let alone companies are struggling with how to actually quantify how they're going to lower their carbon footprint, and do they have any insight as to what their footprint is today. That's just one example. You look at another one which I was really excited about and it was kind of glossed over, was crypto. They are already working with companies on the blockchain to figure
Yes,
out how to have systems in place for authentication and security. um, so I just think that you get this, um, you get the sense that they're never satisfied. There's always
mm,
more to be done. And I like that. I like that. That tells me that the founder is still as hungry as he was day one. And in this case, there's like 4 founders, right? You got Cohen, Lonsdale, Teal, and Karp. And I think Sankar is phenomenal as well. Um, they have a bigger vision, but they're also, as you pointed out, paying attention to the balance sheet. And I just started diving into their S1. I can't remember the gentleman's name who I saw go over their contribution margins. And I just had a video about their contribution margin and it sparked my interest. I went into their S1 and their contribution margins are just like,
yes,
I mean, just going ridiculous.
yes,
And it's because of the acquire, expand, scale business model. And what I love about this business model is that they understand the importance of keeping the customer and growing the customer. So they're willing to lose money in that first initial phase to make sure that our product will do what we said it will do, and you will learn it, We will hold your hand with forward engineers. We will then expand into other departments, and you will see value created for other organizations within your company. And then when you're fully ready to fully expand and make this your standard operating system, we're going to recover all of that operating costs and everything else and those margins.
Yeah.
And the history of their top 25 customers and what they've incrementally spent each year after that shows that that business model is very successful. And if there was an NPS score that we would see publicly from their customers, I guarantee you it would be very high, because you don't see an organization grow their top customers that much sequentially, consistently. That's a sign of a great business model and also great support. And they mentioned that as customers grew, their contribution margin and their gross margins overall were much higher over time. So the nature of their business locks a customer into, on average, 4 to 4.5 years in a contract. That gives them that time to really scale that up. In fact, I think we just saw on Twitter, the CDC just renewed their contract for 9 million. So for the overall possibility of 9 million total that they can get if they execute on that. So I just really think that they have figured out a new business model that really I haven't seen in SaaS, and I work in SaaS. I haven't seen, normally it's we sell you the product, we get a renewals team, maybe you have a customer manager, we try to stay in touch with you. We'll check in every now and then, but that's it, right? And what they're focused on is the business outcome and the solution. Are you getting alpha? Are you getting return on investment? And when you can quantify that to a CEO and say, you saved X millions of dollars, like Skywise, they saved just on one feature of Skywise, saved Airbus $13 million per plane because they were able to see which planes were overweight on fuel, right? By quantifying it, it's so much easier to sign that renewal PO and expand, right? Because you've shown me value that I can stand behind. So I think they have a bright future from that. And the other piece is, let's talk about their investing in the future emerging technologies and startups, and allowing them to use Foundry for Builders as the operating system to build their product. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think, look, it's something very interesting that you just said. They're fulfilling a need that people didn't know existed, right? So if you look at all the most revolutionary companies in the world, they've always done this. They've brought you something that you never knew you needed. But once they brought it to you, you can't live without it.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I used to complain about my wife's Amazon Prime account, and we would get all the boxes, and now it's like, if it's not on Prime, I'm not getting it. I want it in 2 days.
Exactly. And there's just a very simple example. Look at your phone. Look at Zoom. Look at everything around you. Could we do without it? Yes, life went on before it. But now, if you forget your phone, it's like you've forgotten your right hand. I mean, it's crazy.
It's an anxiety and a panic attack.
Absolutely. Your whole life is on your phone. Yeah. But so I think that's a cue that I'll take from you, that they're investing in these companies with the hope that, not only will these companies not, they'll get great value out of the product, but they're creating an atmosphere where you didn't know you needed Palantir. And more companies will start to realize that we do need something like this. These people can bring us enormous cost savings. And as you said, it's not just value, but it's a dollar value. And that's always more important than say, we can do this and we can do that.
Yeah,
but no,
qualitative, it's quantitative.
Yes, You put money on the table. You're literally putting money back on the table for them. So yeah, I think they're doing something really smart by investing in these companies, not only because they're helping them or helping themselves, but I think on a broader scope, they're making it like they're making it important for companies to look at data. Okay, and when enough companies start to realize that um, eh, processing data in the right way or using data in the right way can um, save costs, can improve your business, can take you 10 years forward.
It improves your decision making, right?
It
It
improves.
gives you better decision making, which
Absolutely.
has what they've shown too in the software is it has a cause and effect, right? If my manufacturing team can get a product out faster or know what part shortages they're going to deal with or whatever it may be, they're going to be able to be more efficient, which is then going to affect the next department, which is going to affect the next. And so, when I was talking to Tom Nash on our interview, he was talking about how Skywise is a product that's built on Foundry, right? It's its own offering, but it was so good that all the other airlines had to adopt it. Even Boeing, a competitor to Airbus, had to adopt it. And now it's the suppliers, the people, the manufacturer, the whole supply chain
Supply
uses
chain. Yeah.
this all the way through. And it was out of sheer effectiveness that they had to adopt it, or else you were going to be obsolete. And so I saw a post on Twitter. Someone said, why couldn't we see the same thing with Wejo and with data analytics for cars and autonomous driving? Because we all know that in order for autonomous driving to happen, it's going to have to be whoever has the most data. They claim that they have more data than Tesla, which is awesome because they have 17 different manufacturers that they're, I think even more than that actually, that they've collected all this data from autonomous cars, non-autonomous, because everything it sensors in a car report back, right? And so there's a lot you can do with that data, and Foundry is what they actually built their platform on. So I like the idea of customer obsession, and I think we've seen examples. Like you look at what Jobs did with Apple and branding and experience. It was all about like my iPhone. Like I now have, let me see, I got my iPad, I got my iPhone, I got my Apple Watch. I was a Samsung guy for 14 years, and after I had a MacBook Pro, which I'm working off of, got my first work laptop, and it was not a Windows machine. And the experience and the interface was so much more satisfying and simple that I put value in that. And so I started thinking, well, maybe I should get an iPhone. Wait, you're telling me I can text from my computer to my phone to my friends? So that's when I was like, okay. And then I can get the same apps both on my laptop and my watch. And so customer experience and brand loyalty, it's hard to put a price on, but once you have it, it can carry you a long way. We've seen Apple, I saw it this morning. They said 3 trillion come when it's $182 a share. It'll be 3 trillion market cap. And I remember when everyone was talking at 1 trillion, and I was just like, it's surely it's gotten too big. Like it's not, I mean, it can't double at any time fast. And now it's doubled twice, So I think there's certain brands and leaders that have built something special with some secret sauce that has carried on. Like you look at Tesla now, right? Like I'm not getting burned twice. I'm just starting to add to Tesla. I'm like, you know what? I don't care whatever the price is. Like if I hold it long enough, it'll reward me. Missed the big growth boom, but I still think I can get a couple bags out of it. But I like when companies focus on the customer because it pays back so much, right?
Yes.
You look at SaaS companies with NPS scores and annual reoccurring revenue and net revenue retention. It shows the customer seeing value out of the product. And so I think so many companies don't focus on customer obsession enough. And if you take care of the customer and help get the business outcome that their business needs in that industry, now all of a sudden you've tailored alpha to them. And so Palantir's done a fabulous job of that. I think Tesla has done an absolute job of that. Microsoft and Nvidia has done a phenomenal job in so many industries. All founder-led companies. I call Elon's founder-led because he is Tesla. But that, I think, is what I try to look for, some things before. I mean, fundamentals matter, but I want to look for some of those it factors in leadership. What about you?
I think, we went through the leadership thing, right? I mean, again, it's all about being able to listen, build relationships. As you're saying, brand loyalty is very important. You think about one customer one time, nobody wants that. Everybody wants repeat customers, right? So it's all about building relationships. And all these companies, this is what they're looking to. So when Apple, for example, sells you a phone, they don't just sell you the phone, as you said. Look, from one product, you have 5 products now.
Yeah, they got their money back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the same way with me and with everybody I know. So everybody wants an iPhone, but nobody wants the other products. And then, but it's not a big leap for you to convince them to get a MacBook or to get an iPad. I mean, I've tried the Samsung. I've tried the Microsoft tab as well. The Surface. The Surface is really good, but it's not the iPad. It's just not.
I mean,
And
I know that sounds weird, but it is so true. And that's when you have something that you've focused on experience, and the experience is so good. And I brought up Apple because I know that it's one of your holdings, and it's a good company. It's a good company.